Hi, and welcome to Open, the show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world to you. I'm Imani, and today we'll update you on what's happening in and around our borough. Coming up, the herbal chemist and founder of Blissoma Botanical Beauty speaks about their new SPF product that will help protect your skin this summer. Then the co-producer and an actress from the film Rhapsody and Justice speaks about how the film explores the pain and frustration experienced by many Black and brown communities following the 2016 election of Donald Trump. After that, the co-founder of Harlem Fashion Week speaks about how they created an opportunity for kids to learn about the fashion industry through project-based learning. And finally, the U.S. lead of Climate Week NYC speaks on the importance of engaging the public in climate change discussions. So stay tuned. All this and much more is headed your way because we're now officially open. Hello everyone, I'm Imani, and today is Tuesday, July 16th. You are now watching Open, a program that brings the Bronx and New York City straight to you. Don't forget to stay connected with us via social media at BronxNet TV. Crafted with no hidden ingredients while being 100% vegan, Blissoma offers products designed to rejuvenate the skin. Julie Longyear, herbal chemist and founder of Blissoma Botanical Beauty, joins me to explore the advantages of clean and eco-conscious skincare, as well as the launch of their newest product, the Photonic SPF 30 Mineral Sunscreen and Moisturizer. Julie, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, I'm really curious to know what inspired you to explore skincare professionally, especially with the creation of Blissoma Botanical Beauty.
Yeah, so I happen to be someone that has very sensitive and acne-prone skin, and my desire was to not be at such odds with my skin all the time. And I had tried a lot of products that were in the store. I was trying to do well for myself, like I thought I was reading ingredients and thought I was shopping smart, but it turns out there's a lot more to it, unfortunately, especially for people with a lot of sensitivities, than just reading ingredients labels, because the ingredients labels can still hide a lot of information, unfortunately, with the way that the industry is run these days. So I partly started making products for myself so that I could clear my own skin. And then once I had come up with some recipes that really worked for me, I figured there had to be more people out there just like me that were struggling with the same issues and wanted to share the work that I had done. And because there really is no feeling like being basically, like, you think about your skin all the time when it's disrupted, like when you have acne breakouts and rashes or redness, you're constantly thinking about how you look, how you feel. It really affects your social interactions and experience in life. So I love being able to alleviate that for people because it's made a huge difference in my ability to just live peacefully in my own body.
Now, can you elaborate on what areas of skincare Blissoma targets?
So we are mostly a facial care line. We do have a few body care products as well. We really focus on developing recipes in product areas where people often have had trouble finding effective products. So we have products for acne skin types, for rosacea. We have products for people with dryness or other persistent issues or allergies. So we even have products for people with aloe or jojoba allergies, which these are common natural ingredients that show up in a lot of natural skincare products. And you'd be surprised how many people can react even to those seemingly benign ingredients. But we really listen to our customers when finding out what they need and then producing that. We have a few deodorants that are really effective because deodorant is one of those things that often people really struggle with finding something really effective. So my goal is to solve those problems for people really effectively so that they never have to go looking for that same type of product again. And usually those are very difficult formulation challenges, which is why a lot of products have not solved those problems for people. So it does make it an interesting adventure for me as a formulator because I am constantly taking on some of the most difficult work that I could do, but it's worth it.
Now, I definitely want to highlight, if you look up Blissoma, there's a section on the website that talks about the relationship between plants and people. Can you talk a little bit more about that relationship and why that was kind of very significant to highlight in this work?
Yeah. So for me, like looking at the past, we see historically when agriculture was developed, that was really when civilization started to flourish in a more organized form, and plants were crucial for that. So what we do know is that, of course, we need plants for micronutrients and other aspects of our diet. Like the fiber is really good for us. We eat a lot of plants, most people anyway, unless they're on like a keto-based diet where they're eating just
Right.
mostly meat. But for humans and plants, we actually have been the agent to distribute seeds throughout the world. So, like oftentimes, with explorers' ships, seeds from plants where they were would be stuck to their boots, and they'd get carried to those new continents. So we would, as humans, we have been helpers for plants in helping them spread to new environments, sometimes for better, sometimes for worse, depending on if it's an invasive species. We've cultivated plants so that they flourish and grow if they have benefits for us. And so there's a very mutually symbiotic relationship between plants and humans. We're very different types of organisms, but we need each other in order to really flourish on the planet. They do better in many cases because of us, and we do better because of them.
Now, a huge part of the brand is that it's 100% vegan, eco-conscious, and there are no hidden ingredients. Can you explain why this was important to the growth of Blissoma?
Sure. Being plant-based was an easy decision. We were really wanting to highlight the phytonutrients and healing components in plants. So that, as a core decision to be vegan, was extremely easy because we were plant-focused to begin with anyway. In terms of the cleanliness, the hidden ingredient aspect is a huge one for us. So a lot of the cosmetics industry is able to either or has been able to get away with mislabeling products because they're previously to MOCRA going into effect. There was no regulation really of the cosmetics market in the United States in terms of like third-party oversight of ingredients declarations and things like that. And that's still only beginning to happen, where manufacturers are now required to register products, declare ingredients in a proper format. And so a lot of companies were basically just putting whatever they wanted to on their ingredients list. There's also a loophole that allows for ingredients that carry a preservation ingredient. Then if you put that in the final formula, you don't have to declare the preservation ingredient that was in that original ingredient. So say it has phenoxyethanol or a paraben or whatever in it to preserve it. And herb extracts, unfortunately, are some of the biggest problems with this, because if it's a liquid-based extract, it needs to be preserved somehow before it goes into the final formulation. And so often those preservation ingredients, because of the way the law is written, they don't have to be declared on the final ingredients list, which means that people may read the ingredients list and still they may think it's going to be fine for them because they're not seeing the key compounds that they're trying to avoid, but those could still be carried in there by some of the botanical ingredients. So for us, that's also partly why we started making our own herb extracts in the very beginning, because we saw that that was happening, and we knew that this was causing a lot of skin reactions for people, because you can read the ingredients list, use the product, and still have your skin freak out. And it just feels very frustrating when you're spending a lot of money and trying a lot of products to have that continue to happen. So real, transparency and being absolutely sure of what we are putting in our products due to our own manufacturing is a huge part of the Blissoma brand.
And I definitely want to add to that, skincare is very, very expensive, and it could be very frustrating to find out you spent maybe $80 on something and it doesn't work for your skin, or possibly made it worse. So thank you so much for pointing that out. It is really important. Now I want to talk about your latest product, which is the sunscreen, Photonic SPF 30 Light Shifting Solution Mineral Sunscreen and Moisturizer. Can you tell me a little bit more about the significance of this product?
Yes, so sunscreen is actually one of the hardest products for people with sensitive skin to find. Regardless of if it is mineral or chemical based, Both types of sunscreens can cause big problems for people with sensitive skin, either due to the preservatives used in the formula or due to the carrier ingredients. So oftentimes silicones pop up in many facial sunscreens and body sunscreens, and silicones are actually pretty disruptive to the skin barrier. There's new research coming out showing that they disrupt the skin lipids. They can cause breakouts for people like me who deal with cystic acne. And so sunscreen is an important part of a skincare routine, but for people with sensitivities, it can be really hard to find one because you're kind of choosing between a sunburn, on one hand if you don't use sunscreen, or you're choosing between breakouts and rashes on another hand. So I've personally, like on one particular trip, I forgot to bring something that was right for my skin with me. I used something that seemed okay that I got at a drugstore, and spent the next 2 weeks with a rash on my face. So it is really challenging, and then there's just the feel of it. Like lots of times sunscreens have kind of like a greasy or oily feel. You don't like the way that it's slipping around on the skin or creating shine. And so developing something that people would actually not only love to wear because it feels good, but that is safe for all of our customer sensitivities, and then as well provides that sun protection that they're looking for so that they can actually enjoy being outside and don't have to hide and inside, or avoid doing things with friends or exercising during the day, that sort of thing.
And can you quickly just expand on why sunscreen is so important? I know a lot of people kind of view it as like an optional thing. I know sometimes people from my background may feel like we don't need sunscreen, but we're, currentently learning that's not the case. So can you just talk about the importance of wearing sunscreen?
Yeah, so I think definitely there is a healthy balance. The sun can have very beneficial effects for you. So especially if you are getting all the right micronutrients in your diet and only going out during certain times of day. And there's a lot of kind of parameters that you would use to form a healthy sun routine. But in general, you only need like maybe 20 minutes of sun exposure to build up your vitamin D for the day. So beyond that, you really need a sunscreen on your face. And for most people, like 20 minutes might even be just your commute or your walk to work, especially if you're living in the city. Even with buildings and shadows and stuff, you're still going to be taking on a lot of reflected light. And, commuting is going to be your big source of UV exposure for a lot of people. And so beyond about 20 minutes, you really need to be wearing something that is going to help protect against UV damage, because UVA rays and UVB rays both can affect the skin. UVB rays are the burning rays. UVA rays are the aging and cancerous rays, and those actually go deeper into the skin beyond the top layers, and that's how they affect the collagen and elastin structures and create mutations. And so that buildup of damage over time can really cause some problems. A single really potent sunburn during childhood can, drastically increase your chances of skin cancer later in life. So just protecting gradually over the course of time is one of the best things that you can do for your skin health. And then, of course, we also are not only including sunblock ingredients like zinc oxide in this particular recipe, but I also believe it's really important to feed skin with antioxidants, omega fatty acids, all the other phytonutrients that can contribute to skin health, so that the skin is better equipped to handle that exposure to the sun, because it's not just about blocking the sun, it's about all of the other effects that come with that UV exposure, because no sunscreen is going to prevent 100% of UV exposure. So providing that skin nutrition can really be crucial to making that beneficial instead of damaging.
Well, Julie, I want to thank you so much for joining us and sharing a little bit about your journey with Blissoma and educating our community.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
To learn more about this product, please go to their website, blissoma.com. Don't go away. We'll be back with more Open right after this.
I remember when the Bronx did not really have a media outlet properly representing the people of the Bronx.
BronxNet provides for the community by being a community where people can be empowered to share their voices.
We are in a really great place technologically. We've got all the resources that we need to be effective.
Whether it's through cameras, storytelling, editing, we have provided those services for 30 years.
BronxNet's mission is to be a voice for the community.
To educate, to inform, and to inspire.
And you can be a part of it. We've built studios for you.
Welcome back. Rhapsody in Justice is a satirical comedy that examines the pain and frustration experienced by many Black and Brown communities following the results of the 2016 election. The film explores the social and political landscape along with the events that led to that unforgettable moment. Writer, director, and producer Anthony J. Dixon and actress Imani Logan join me to discuss. Thank you both so much for joining me.
Thank you.
I'm really excited to talk about this because I remember 2016 and a lot was going on. But with that being said, can you just discuss, what kind of led to the creation of Rhapsody in Justice?
Well, yeah, what you just said, Trump being elected threw me. It surprised me. I, being a New York person and, being around a bit longer than you guys, I was very familiar with Trump. In fact, from one of my first jobs out of school working at an employment agency, we actually got an order to fill a receptionist position at the Trump Tower. It didn't take long because they were direct to find out that the particular area that they were going to have this receptionist, no people of color are to step in this area. So that, from going from knowing about Trump as this bombastic, individual in the city to knowing that he was a bigot, and his organization, manifested that. I knew when he went on to The Apprentice that all of that was just a lot of phony baloney stuff, and so to elect him president threw me for a loop, and I wrote a song, and the song developed into a rhapsody of different songs. And then someone I had come in to record said, "Do you think about making a video?" And I was like, "Well, what's that? How do you do that?" Make a long story short, we ended up turning it into a full featured film.
Now, with that, I definitely want to highlight the fact that it is a comedy, satirical comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to explain?
Yeah, I want to
talk
clear
about,
that up a little bit because it's comedy. You got to put the drama in it because truthfully, it's not a, drag out, ha 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 thing.
Mm-hmm.
It is very pointed in the direction of a lot of truth that we try to do in a humorous way because what we are putting out there, sometimes truth is a little hard to swallow. And that's why I think some of, the brilliance of the Daily Show or Stephen Colbert is actually giving you the truth, but putting it in a way that, okay, don't get too mad. So yeah, it's a comedy drama, not just comedy.
Thank you so much for sharing and clarifying that.
Yeah.
Now, Imani, I want to talk to you and talk about the character that you play in this film. Can you tell me a little bit more about what it was like to be a part of this and understanding the genre of the film? Was that a challenge for you to kind of convey these themes in this type of way?
Yeah, I mean, I had a really fantastic time working on it. The character that I play is Keisha Taken, who becomes Sister Truth. And talking about that satirical comedy and drama to it, she's known as this mistaken person who often gets things wrong. She's a little bit naive as she opens up into this world of becoming this producer of a cable news station. I think that she has a lot of passion and a lot of creativity, but she has a lot to discover. And I think throughout the film, you see her discovery go from a place of uncertainty and putting too much trust in the wrong spaces to blossoming into this powerful, dominant woman who is able to protect others and create an impact that is just so monumental. So I learned a lot about myself creating this project and going on this journey. We've had so many moments where things have been, just very hectic, and we had to discover a lot and figure out how to make things work. We worked independently on this project, so it took a lot of hands on deck to just fill in as many jobs as we can to just make this work, and it was a wonderful experience. So I was really happy about it.
Now, I want to talk about the fact that the film is set in Harlem from 2016 to 2020. Can you talk about, Harlem is just so full of life and is a character in itself. Can you just talk about, the importance of focusing on Harlem in particular, and what significance did that bring to the film?
Well, I was born and raised in Harlem, 153rd and Riverside, right next to the Trinity Church. And, you know, as a youth, I ventured all around Harlem, And for me, most media, be it TV, film, or news, had always focused on, you know, some of the most down and out areas, giving the illusion, creating a delusion that Harlem is this wicked looking and feeling and dangerous place, and it is not. It's a beautiful community. So it wasn't a lot of thought to kind of say Harlem. And then, you know, we also filmed a lot in the Bronx too.
That's cool. I love to hear that.
Yeah.
Now, you know, Imani, were there any personal feelings that you may have had from real life that you used to help kind of form your character and bring the character to life?
You know, I would say that for my character, I usually separate myself from my character so I can discover what they want, what the journey is, and what we're here to discover. For myself, I'm really big on finding the right research, the right facts to be able to support the decisions that I make in developing the character. So it's about the research for me. We touch on a few different topics that happen throughout history, throughout New York City's history. And for that, I've always been that person to, you know, have a few tools in my back pocket that I can use when I need them. And that was just what led to the inspiration of me creating that character.
Now, I'm curious to know, of course, you know, race is like a huge, you know, theme within the film, but are there any other themes Rhapsody and Justice explores?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it explores immigration. And actually, and ALC, if you're watching, we give you a nice shout out because you help a scene out with an immigration issue. We address a lot of the history where we've kind of come to pass where we really, as a people, stopped paying attention to what was really going on. And then we use children in the film, a new generation, to kind of wake us up. You know, that's one of the things that is, for me, heartwarming. You know, and I sincerely feel, and Imani has even expressed to me that she saw that younger generations, after, you know, the tumultuous 100 years after the Civil War, to MLK saying that, you know, that the check of, you know, our freedom was insufficient to now, but there's been like the 80s, 90s, and the first of 2000s, we just kind of laid back. So,
and I also think that, you know, there is also this tone of a sisterhood. There's a bond as well with the film as well, with these three women who are all working at this cable station. They have worked together for a short period of time. They've grown this bond, and the relationships that they build, you know, we find that sense of friendship, but there's also that sense of family and working together. And I think with a lot of us, we can all agree, when you work together, you become a little bit of a family. Yes. So we explore a little bit of that aspect as well.
Now, I definitely want to say, with everything that's going on, we are now in the midst of another upcoming election, and it seems that, you know, history is mirroring what we saw in 2016, and there are even some new methods to divide our country even further. How could this influence the way members react to this film, you know, now?
Well, this film is not going to change anyone's mind. If you have decided that, you know, Donald Trump is for you, you know, this film may actually disturb you. And not that we do anything harsh. We give it as it is. We do not alter points of view at all. This is your point of view. You know, let's let you see how we interpret that point of view that you're putting out and how it affects us. What we're hoping that it can do is, you know, maybe help increase voter turnout. You know, and not to say that the Black or Hispanic community are monolithic in their political views. They're not at all. But what has happened, and I know you talked about race and what else, but a lot of things just kind of come right back down to race, because the truth of the matter, and we address it in the film, is that Black and Hispanics are far more conservative
than what the general public really knows and understands. It's the race issue that brings us together, and then we still, as we always had from slavery on, you know, hi Senator Tim Scott, had blacks who stood by suppressors. And, you know, we address all of these things, and again, it's heavy stuff, but we try to do it in somewhat of a humorous way to take some of the edge off.
And I definitely think that's an amazing way to get more people who sometimes say like, oh, I'm not into politics, or I'm not into, you know, kind of opens a new, you know, kind of avenue for people to kind of be open to it. So I definitely agree with that sentiment. Now, due to the current political climate we're in, you know, could you see a sequel being made or expanding the story even further, or is that something that you're even interested in?
Hey, you know, we're working on some things to get this film out there before the election, like in my little fantasy brain. If you see these three ladies on this disc right here, I could see a television show developed with these three characters. I mean, you got to see the film and see what I mean. You know, they had their Charlie's Angels in the past, and then here you got Sister Tell It Like It Is, Sister Wanna Be Free, and Sister Truth. And I think there's enough within them to kind of develop that if that was so.
It's a possibility. That's what he's saying. It's a possibility.
That's amazing. Now, can you just let everybody know where quickly where they can go to watch or support?
Well, it's going to be coming out soon.
Yeah, here's the thing. We have a distribution deal. We've had a number of offers, and we've settled in, and the film is a bit delayed in coming out. You know, again, I can give my email address if people want to know how they can maybe see the film now, but we're pushing to get this thing out. I have executive producer Linda Hawkins, who has been a full-time job for a year, and then, you know, since I have this little platform, you know, I want to thank her, Mark Fratto, who's the cinematographer and an editor without I couldn't have done it, because it was he and I doing the back scene stuff. The top actors, Amber Anderson, who also directed a scene, Yaya, who co-directed a scene and did choreographer, everyone, Channing Jackson. I'm here because of Channing Jackson getting Erin in touch with us, or us in touch with Erin. So as a group, I am not here without all of my energy and everything is from them.
Well, you know, with that, I want to thank you both so much, you know, for taking the time to talk about this project and, you know, really share it with our community, because I think it's important. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
And this is for you.
Oh, thank you. That's amazing.
You know, and please watch
I can't wait to
tell
watch.
me, and please reach back and tell me what you think.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Thank you
We
so
love
much.
it. Thank you for having us.
If you would like to learn more about Rhapsody and Justice, please go to imdb.com and search Rhapsody and Justice. Stay tuned. We have more for you right after this.
Hello, my name is Tyrone Lowe. I host a show at BronxNet called The Legends, where I bring real legends, DJs, upcoming artists, actually people from the past that's into entertainment. I want to thank BronxNet. First of all, I want to thank for the 30 years of the actually being active here. It has opened a lot of doors for me to the point where I'm branching off to have my own network. Fulfill your dreams here. That's all I have to say.
Hey everyone, it's your girl Kat from the Kitty Rose Lifestyle, also from The Next Chapter, where we discuss shades of gray every week right here at BronxNet, Saturdays at 11 p.m. Wow, 30 years. 30 years of BronxNet public access television. I'm a girl from Brooklyn and came to the Bronx 25 years ago, started my journey on BronxNet on public access television in 2016, and BronxNet is where I got my start. BronxNet, I feel like, is a home away from home. They support all of my endeavors, and I wouldn't have been able to be on any of the other channels if it wasn't for the fundamentals that I learned right here at my start here at BronxNet. So I am so appreciative. My son says I should stop telling people I'm from Brooklyn because I've been here now, Bronx strong, for 22 years. So I'm so grateful, and I wish you much success in 30 years, 30, 30, 30, 30, 30, 30, 30, 30 more. Because public access is necessary so that people like myself can have a voice. Yes, BronxNet. It's your girl Kat from Kitty Rose. Check me out every Saturday at 11 p.m. right here, Channel 68, The Next Chapter, where we discuss shades of gray. Mwah.
Welcome back. Harlem Fashion Week offers young people the chance to receive training and development at the HFW Kids Fashion Academy. Programs like their summer camp allow students to learn about the fashion industry through project-based learning and unique experiences. Co-founder Tandra Birkett joins me to discuss. Thank you so much for joining me.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm going good.
Now, this is an amazing program. When I heard about this, I immediately thought, I wish I had something like this when I was a child, because it's so amazing and it gives kids the opportunity to, you know, learn a little bit more about fashion, which is something that isn't really encouraged in schools. So can you tell me a little bit more about the creation, you know, of this opportunity?
Well, what you just said is the reason why we did it, because it didn't exist. My daughter, Yvonne, who couldn't be here today because he's actually teaching class, when she was younger, she had a passion to be involved in fashion, but there was nothing available for her to be able to develop her skill. I put her in several art classes, but it was nothing designed specifically to development of fashion careers. So when we developed Harlem Fashion Week, which is the fashion production company, we decided that we wanted to always create the fashion and education component, and it's why we started Harlem Fashion Week, because there are so few young people, especially young people of color, that are in the fashion design industry. So it was one, to get them that educated, that skill to be able to develop, so we can break open even further in that market, because those opportunities, although there's tons of things in the arts, there's very few that are specifically designed for fashion industry development.
Now, can you tell everyone a little bit more about your journey through the fashion industry?
Ooh, so I've always loved fashion. Ever since I was in high school, I was that kid that always came, created these different outfits. When I was in college, went to New York University. Part of my things that I did on campus was coordinate fashion shows. When I had my daughter, come to find out, she decided that she loved fashion. And that's how we just began to develop and create. It's like, wow, that's awesome. She never knew that I love fashion. And she innately wanted to be a fashion designer. And that's how we began to develop Harlem Fashion Week.
Now, can you talk a little bit more about the Academy and the programs and activities that are provided?
So, with the HFW Fashion Academy, we wanted to give the young people an opportunity to develop and learn in different areas. So we have modeling, which we call catwalk and confidence, which is really important. We have sewing classes for the young people. We have fashion design, cosmetology. We have photography. We also have boys to men class that we do as well. So we always want to give them a little bit of different areas. One, so they can see what their interest is, and then they can determine how they want to continue as they get older into a career path.
Now, you talked about the boys to men class. Can you just talk about the importance of kind of creating that space, especially for young boys in fashion?
So what happened was, as by trade, I'm also an educator. And as an educator, I worked for 5 years and have a development program for Black and Latino boys. And that's what caused us to want to make sure that when we created our program, we had that space for them to be able to feel like they were part of the fashion design industry. Here in America, you don't see a lot, and some of the boys, but around the world, a lot of men are tailors. We wanted to give them the opportunity, really, you can be a part of this. You can be encouraged to develop your career in this particular area, not even just as a model, but in other skilled areas and other areas of STEM that they can be able to work with. So we wanted to kind of continue to guide them. It has been really important for us to have that mentorship as well. So we put that into, which is very unique in a fashion design program, to be able to help develop in those areas, young men in those areas.
Now, I definitely want to highlight the fact that it's specifically aimed towards, Black and Latino children, specifically those in Harlem, but I'm sure it's open to many.
Yes, open to everyone, open to everybody.
Right, so can you just talk about the importance of kind of having a space for children specifically from this background?
So only 17% of the fashion design industry is professionals or people of color. It is a multi-billion-dollar industry. So we recognize the need to break open that market for Black and Latino young people, especially people of color, and we wanted to give them space. Part of why we created Harlem Fashion Week, the production company, is to create access, to kind of break through that as gatekeepers that keep people from being able to have that opportunity. When we recognize, because my daughter and myself, Yvonne, are educators, that we have to start with our youth. We create, during our fashion production, we have shows for our adult designers and industry, but we realized that if we wanted to change the dynamics of what's happening in the industry, that we had to start with our children, and that's why we decided to create Harlem Fashion Week Academy for the kids.
And you know what I really love about this is that, you know, there's an emphasis on Black and Latino children, and as many of us know, in the world of fashion, Black and Latino people really kind of lead the trend, or like kind of a lot of inspiration is taken from urban community. And so unfortunately to not see that, you know, reflected in the industry, whether that be professionally or on the runway, is kind of disheartening. So I love to see that there's a program that's kind of trying to mitigate that issue. Can you tell me a little bit more about, you know, how also representation of Black and brown people can be important for the kids to see?
Oh, it's extremely important. We just did a fashion show on Sunday, a Saturday in Harlem, and we had our kids walk. And it was awesome because it built their confidence. Seeing themselves is one of the important ways for young people to feel confident about who they are. And if we're confident, then we feel like we have that necessary seed to accomplish our goal. Representation is paramount, is why we're focusing on making sure that's present for our youth, so they can see themselves in these spaces so that they will be aspired to accomplish those goals.
Right, and I also think that it could also change the standard of beauty.
Of course.
And, you know, like there's so many, you know, amazing things that I think it hits on. And, you know, kids, although people think that they don't understand these things, they do. They definitely understand it. And so I think it's so important to kind of touch on that, you know, kind of talking more so to the success part. You know, are there any success stories of any kids who've been in the program who've kind of expanded their knowledge of fashion or have gone on to do more things in fashion after being in the program?
Well, the program is relatively new. So we started Harlem Fashion Week, the production company, in 2016. We only recently did some pilots around the young people on maybe I think the first one was 2021. So this is really new. However, we have a young lady who has worked with us for several years who is now just finishing her first year at Morgan State with Trinity Brown, and she worked with, and she has gotten a lot of exposure in the fashion design industry. She actually wants to bring fashion production program to her college, her HBCU. So we're really proud of her, and she's like one of the oldest that has went through the program. We have another young lady who is also one of our junior model coaches, Jalen, created Jalen World Boutique, and she has she has her own line. She comes and works with our young people. She trains. She's a young woman, that young lady that trains other young people, which is really important. We have interns. So she's developed really nicely in Jalen's World Boutique. So we have definitely kind of moving forward to see that open those spaces for our young people to be able to develop. In our adult, we definitely have many adults that have broke into the fashion design. But for our young people, we only got started the past couple of years. So we are excited about where those young people are going to go.
And what do you hope to see for the future, you know, maybe the next 5 to 10 years, especially regarding, you know, the work that you do with young people?
Well, we want Harlem Fashion Week and the Fashion Academy to be solidified as a cultural institution for our young people. We actually are developing our after school program. So that programming is going to start up in September. So that's what we're kind of really moving forward to. We want it to be an established program, so the spaces for our young people to get the skills necessary to be success. So we really wanted that to be our main goal, to have a brick and mortar, you know, place that is Harlem Fashion Week Academy for our youth. That's our goal.
Now, can you tell me a little bit more about the summer camp and basically just what are the requirements to join? And, you know, what can participants expect on a daily basis? So
what we have, and anybody can join. You know what I'm trying to say? That's really important for us, especially at this stage, so that it's open. It is open access for our young people to be able to participate in it. And that's really the main thing, wanting to have a desire to be a part of this industry. And we take all young people between the ages of 6 and 17 to be able to participate in the program, boys and girls to start. So that's really, you know, that's really the goal for it, just to be, we want to have create access. So we like everybody can come.
Now, I want to touch on the fashion tours around NYC. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
That is super fun. We have uptown tours and downtown tours. So we have fashion tours in Harlem, and we take them to different boutiques. We take them to the 106th Street African Marketplace in Harlem. We take them also to different monuments that they have in Harlem as well. We take them to different, there's a manufacturing company that they have in Harlem, so we actually take them there. That's for our uptown. And downtown, we kind of, Yvonne is, like I said, she's the creative director. She's really the design person. She graduated from Parsons, so that's really her thing. And she kind of takes them behind the scenes when they go down to Fashion Avenue, to 7th Avenue, and she takes them to her spots and kind of introduces them to people that are in the industry. So they go to the fabric stores, they go to the manufacturing stores, they have a little workshop that they have there. So they're able to get a very well behind the scenes look at how to really break into the fashion design industry and resources. That's another thing that's super important, that we provide information on resources, because that's one of the things that a lot of people lack in wanting to break into the industry. And that's, we kind of give them tips and tricks and opportunities and create those relationships when we do the fashion tour. So
that's amazing, and I think it's definitely important because so many people have creativity, but they just don't know where to go to with that. So I think that's so important. You know, with that being said, are there any upcoming events in the month of, the ending of July or August, that the community can be a part of, or, something that people can take their children to?
So, we're now actually preparing for Fashion Week. So Fashion Week is super big. People come from all over the world. So Fashion Week is going to be on September the 8th. We do have smaller events leading up. So if you follow us on harlemfw.com or you follow on our social media at harlemfw, you'll find a listing of different events that we do have coming. But our big thing is going to be for New York Fashion Week. It's going to be at the Museum of the City of New York on 5th Avenue, 103rd Street in Spanish Harlem. That's going to be a series of events. It's going to be leading up to that big show. So people connect with that. We're going to have things for our young people to be able, young people are going to be walking. They're going to be super excited because they're going to be walking part from New York Fashion Week. So we're getting them prepared. We have our big castings coming up where hundreds of models literally come from all over to participate in the casting. Our kids will be there. Our adults are going to be there. So that's going to be amazing. That's September 8th. Everybody, 2024, Harlem Fashion Week, and our young people will be a part of that as well.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
this
you.
is such an amazing program, and I love to see it truly. So thank you so much for joining us.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
To learn more about this program, the other programs that they provide, please go to the website hfwfashionacademy.com. We have to take a quick break. We'll be back with more Open right after this.
Thank you, BronxNet. Congratulations on 30 years. What an amazing accomplishment. On behalf of myself, Alina Dow, and I represent the Dow Twins and the Dow Twins Show, who are young producers. They started, I think, when they were 11, and now they're 14. They started making 30-second little fun facts, and now they are doing 30-minute shows. And it goes to a testament of how much you guys do in the Bronx to make young people want to continue to be involved. I wish you 30 more amazing years and beyond. Thank you for what you do.
Only 57% of New York City high school students are college ready by their senior year. .55% of high school graduates either have no plans to attend college or are uncertain that they will ever attend. .34% of young adults don't go to college because they can't afford it. Discover what's possible. BronxNet's education programs, internships, and opportunities help engage and inspire Bronx youth and beyond to pursue their passions. Be a part of the BronxNet family. Whether you're interested in our shows, joining a class, or donating to support our mission, visit BronxNet.org to learn more.
Welcome back. Every September, the Climate Group organizes Climate Week NYC, uniting thousands of people from all backgrounds to address the issue of climate change. With a mission to educate, influence, and inspire, Climate Week NYC drives concrete action into the mainstream. The U.S. lead of Climate Week NYC, Adam Lake, joins me to discuss this movement. Adam, thank you so much for joining me.
Good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Now, can you tell me a little bit more about Climate Group and just the overall mission of, Climate Week NYC?
Absolutely. So Climate Group, we are a non-profit. We're global. So I'm originally from London. That's where I started at Climate Group, and then I moved to New York last year. We have offices in America, in London, in Europe, and in China and India. And our mission is we want to stop climate change. And we do that through a number of different ways. So we work in areas like renewable electricity, electric vehicles. We're looking at concrete and steel now as well. But one of the biggest things that we're most famous for is Climate Week NYC. It's the largest climate event of its kind in the world. It's going to be having its 16th year this year. And it brings together something like over 600 separate events, probably over 100,000 people during the week in the third week of September. So that's what Climate Group does, and that's what Climate Week NYC is all about.
Now, I think it's so amazing that there's so many areas of, people across the world that are joining and uniting for this one, this one goal. Can you talk about the importance of that? Because I think oftentimes we kind of stay within our communities, which is important to do work within your community, but to kind of come together, I think that has to mean something. So can you tell me a little bit more about that work and what you've seen?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I joined Climate Week NYC in 2018, when I became the head of Climate Week, and our strapline that year was for New York, for the world. So we chose to hold Climate Week NYC every year during the UN General Assembly. So that's when the UN hosts all the countries from around the world, because we thought that would be an effective way of doing something when the people in power are there so they can see what we're doing. I think now, as we've grown so big, it's fantastic to see communities from around the world come together in New York City to make sure that we can learn lessons from each other in how we can take climate action in government policy, in business, in our personal lives. And I think that's a really important thing.
And can you talk about the impact that you've probably seen globally because of Climate Week NYC?
One of the questions I get a lot is people say, hey, have you thought about doing a Climate Week in, and then say any other city from around the world? And some other places do it, and they're great, they're fantastic. But my personal experience, there's nowhere like New York City in the world. There's something about how communities get involved in things that they care about that just mean there's so much energy, there's so much growth. We're able to connect people at a community level to people at the most senior levels of government, most senior levels of business, and that's how you make change happen. So I think New York City is special. I think the wider week of over 600 events is something that's so important for Climate Week NYC because it connects people, it allows people to get involved and engaged. So I think that's the impact that we've seen. And one thing I love is when you'll meet someone, maybe I'll be doing an interview on our podcast or something, and they're like a really senior person in a big business supporting their sustainability efforts. And they say, I got started at Climate Week NYC 10 years ago. I just went online and went to this random event, and then I met someone who gave me a job or gave me advice. And it's that thing about every individual can change the world. And I hope that these events that take place, by being open to all, just help people go on that journey a little bit more.
Now, upon doing my research, just to learn a little bit more, I kept seeing the year 2030. So, for those who don't know, can you explain the importance of the year 2030 and why we see it often in regards to discussions on climate change?
So the other year you probably hear a lot about is 2050, because everyone's talking about 2 degrees of heating by 2050. But 2050 is a long way off. It feels a long way off. And if we fixate around 2050, there's going to be no urgency there. And if we want to have any hope of reaching those goals at 2050, we really got to be honest. What do we have to do now? What do we have to do by 2030? So that's why in 2020, we started talking about the climate decade. What do people have to do today? Because if you are a big company that is emitting and saying, oh yeah, we'll be net zero by 2050, what do you really think they're doing today? So this is a great way of focusing the mind. For example, our EV100 campaign, which is when companies commit to having wholly electric vehicle fleets in their organization, we have a target of 50% electric by 2030. So it allows you to track, it allows you to measure, and it allows you to hold people to account, so they're not just saying they're going to do good stuff, they've got to prove it.
That's amazing. I never even thought of it that way. And that's a very clever way to get people to kind of take action, because you are right, 2050 seems like a very long time from now. And I could definitely see how that can kind of, make people not put a little bit of urgency or a little pep in their step towards, making change. So 100% I agree with that. Now, can you talk a little bit more about the different opportunities for engagement that Climate Week offers?
Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, making sure we bring in communities across the 5 boroughs of NYC to be a part of the week is one of the things that is most important to us. So one of the things that we do to try and help with that, if someone wants to host an event, they can apply to become part of the official agenda for Climate Week NYC. So it goes on the website, it goes on the searchable calendar, which goes live in a couple of weeks' time. And that's how you get an audience of like hundreds of thousands of people finding out what to do. So if you're a company and you're looking to host some sort of event, we charge a small fee because we're a non-profit, so we need someone to sort of allow us to do all these things. If you're a community group, if you're a small non-profit, if you're doing something at your school, there's no charge whatsoever. Let us find out about your event. We want to promote it. We want to provide you with an audience. Naturally, the majority of events happen in Manhattan because that's where the majority of things often do happen. But we want to change that, and I want to see more events this year in the Bronx specifically. Go on the website and register, and you know what? This is all about supporting different communities to be part of the week itself. So if people got questions or they're like, is this an event? Is this something that's going to work? Ask us. The contact details are on the website. We want to support and make sure there's more just more of the Bronx at Climate Week NYC.
That's amazing. And I will say that, just doing this work, I've learned that the Bronx, many people from the Bronx are, environmental justice a big issue here. And so I think it would be very important for the people of the Bronx to know, how they're being affected by this, and that they too can make a change, and also encourage other people to make a change. So I think that's, amazing. And I love that you, pointed that out. Now, I want to talk about the prominent figures attached to Climate Week NYC. I understand that Jane Fonda and the Apple CEO Jim Cook were in attendance for the previous Climate Week events. Can you just talk about the significance of having, people with extremely large platforms attend and be a part of this?
Yeah, it's such an interesting question, because I think when you work in that world, you do end up meeting lots of people who are very, very famous. You kind of like become anesthetized to it, especially during the week where there might be world leaders on stage and you're backstage and you're thinking, oh wow, there's Matt Damon, or there's Jeff Bezos, and so yes, it is important and it is helpful when you have people with a large platform, because it involves a wider audience. I think the biggest audience we ever got, we worked with a brilliant guy called Steve Bordeaux, who worked on The Tonight Show with Trevor Noah, and he helped us bring in all the late night TV shows to do a night devoted to Climate Week NYC. It was called Climate Night. So we had Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy Kimmel, even James Corden, I think it's back in England now. But that got a huge audience, and the whole world spoke about it. These things are great for bringing people in, but, and there's a big but, we don't do this job for social media likes. People knowing about you means nothing if we're not reaching our climate targets. So it's really important that when you're working with celebrities, prominent people, or even prominent politicians, you've got to root it to action. Like, what's the actual thing you're trying to do? And showcasing or raising awareness of a specific issue, like you mentioned, environmental justice. Like, if there is an area in New York City that has suffered from environmental injustice, and raising awareness can help make a difference, then that is a completely valid thing. But there are whole other areas where it's really important that you have to make sure you're rooting it to some form of change.
I agree, and I think it's important, like, people are aware, but what are the next steps, right? So I think it's important to not just stop there, but you are correct. It's important, and I think it can open so many doors to people who probably didn't think about it before. If they thought they were just going to see like a funny celebrity interview and then they're learning about climate change, it could really change things. But you're absolutely correct. It definitely takes more than that. Now, with that being said, I want to talk about how do you educate the public, the general public, about climate change in a way that encourages people to actually take action and think critically about the world around them?
I think sometimes it's less about educating the public and more about allowing the public to educate the people in power. So I think, we will work with lots of CEOs who are trying to do good things on climate. But one of the things about Climate Week NYC I love is that there are people on the ground here who know about climate change because they're living in it. Like, it is a really hot week this week. We're fortunate to be in a room with air conditioning, but we're outside, we're melting. Now, a lot of people, if you do certain jobs outside, you work in agriculture, or you work in construction, or maybe you don't even have a home. Like, these audiences understand right now what's happening, what the impacts of climate change are. And so I think we talked earlier about 2030, 2050. I actually think raising awareness of those stories about the impacts of today, air quality, asthma rates in certain areas. Now, there's a lot of environmental injustice around that. Look at asthma rates in different communities. Making sure that message is taken to political leaders and business leaders. I think that's a big part of the education that needs to happen.
Now, I want to say that 2030 sounds far away, but it's closer than we think. What do you hope to see in the near future, just in regards to how we address climate change and the things that we do to kind of address the issues attached to climate change?
I think change is the one word answer for that. I think we're in a really interesting place as a global society, because when it comes to taking that climate action, actually, a lot of world leaders do support what we want to do. A lot of business leaders support what we want to do, and definitely the community supports that. So we've got a lot of stuff on our side. The issue is we've got to get stuff done. And so I think when we're looking at transitional vehicles, how we get our energy and our power, all these different things, I think we want to see those changes like in the flesh. We want to recognize this is different. There's a great, there's going to be a change in New York later this year where hydroelectric power is going to come in. It's going to take out something like 80% of emissions from a gas-fired power station. It's things like that. Real stuff. That's what we want to see.
Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us and educating. And as you said, learning a little bit, about what's going on with Climate Week NYC. So once again, thank you.
You're welcome.
To learn more about the upcoming Climate Week NYC event, please go to the website at climateweeknyc.org. We've come to the end of our show today. I'd like to thank all of our guests for joining us and you, the viewers, for tuning in. If you miss any part of today's show, you can catch the recable cast at 5 and 10 p.m. on Optimum Channel 67 and Verizon Fios Channel 33, or watch anytime on the web at BronxNet.org. You can catch a brand new episode of Open with Darren Jaime on Wednesday and with Rena Valentine on Friday. I'm Kibin Aline, wishing you and yours safety and wellness now and always. See you next time.